Something I appreciate about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is how grounded and mundane its open world is. So ordinary and mundane that it loops back into being unique and interesting again. Most other open world games are either fantastical and stylized like the world of The Witcher 3, or truncated and compressed like Red Dead Redemption 2, leading to these spaces feeling more like densely packed amusement parks instead of real places that people would live in and inhabit. And that's totally fine. Both Red Dead 2 and The Witcher 3 are masterpieces, and I absolutely love their worlds. But there's something refreshing about Kingdom Come Deliverance, with how it's set largely in open fields of grass, some forests, some hills, and some villages. Oh, and one major city, all against the backdrop of the late medieval period in Bohemia. When I was little, I daydreamed of an open world game akin to Microsoft Flight Simulator, but just on the ground. Microsoft Walking Simulator, I guess? I daydreamed of being able to walk for miles and miles in an area that accurately reflected the size, with all the repetition and detail that would entail. If you start from one end of the map in KCD2 and walk to the other, you'll probably start in a hilly, grassy, forested area and likely end up in another hilly, grassy, forested area. Which sounds boring on a surface level, but really, it has caused me to appreciate the details within that area more than anything else. And much like in real life, the more I looked at my surroundings, the more I saw. There's something sublime about turning off the in-game music and just wandering around the map. There's a clear variety of trees, shrubs, herbs, and flowers, different kinds of lakes and streams and gullies and ponds and wells, hills and crevices and caves and mines, as well as oddities like pagan shrines, mysterious bones, dead bodies, fresh graves, and the occasional sunken treasure. It gives me the same feeling as wandering around a park in my city or hiking out in the countryside, feeling the warmth of the sun and getting lost in the details. To contrast this with Red Dead Redemption, as someone from Louisiana, I love the fact that they basically recreated an 1800s version of New Orleans and the surrounding swamplands. That's so cool. But it does cause a bit of psychological dissonance to see mountains beyond bayou, and a short 10-minute walk north later, you could be in some large foothills and gaze upon prairie land out west. I'm mostly here observing an artistic choice. This is not really a critique, since Red Dead is trying to tell a story that takes place in multiple states, and specifically the art direction is less true historical realism and more so invoking the quote-unquote manifest destiny viewpoint that a lot of settlers had at the time, often called American expansionism. Still, being from Louisiana, it created a bit of dissonance because the South is incredibly flat, and the unreality of seeing these biomes so close to each other hurt my immersion a little bit. To my knowledge, both maps in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, the Trotsky region and the Kudenberg region, are pretty accurate to their world size, with the Kudenberg region being slightly more condensed. Now, I've never been to those places, but goddammit, to me it feels real enough and really adds to the immersion. What's really amazing to me is how different the maps feel from each other, despite being only an hour's drive, about 50 miles, away. The Trotsky region is a densely packed, forested, and hilly place, and in real life is known as the Bohemian Paradise because of how beautiful and nature-centric it is. Everyone in the game treats this region like it's in the middle of nowhere, and it kind of is. In contrast, the city of Kudenberg and the surrounding countryside and villages feel properly urban and domesticated. Less dense forests, fewer hills, more open pastures. It was interesting because while in the Trotsky region, I could not wait to finally make it to the big city, and when I got there, I immediately felt a bit homesick for the untamed forest I left behind. It's funny because I think we collectively have an idea that until the Industrial Revolution, the world was mostly untouched by humans, but man, that is the opposite of the truth, and the design of the second map shows that truth very well, how much humans, even in the 1400s, molded the Earth to their needs. Another thing that makes the world design of this game feel different from others is how the settlements are done, being both smaller than what you'd think, but also being larger than what you might realize at first. Many games, especially Bethesda ones, will have a city that, in the lore, has thousands of people in it, but in the actual game, there will be like, a few dozen? With Skyrim, this is really, really noticeable because there are way more bandits in the countryside than civilians in the cities. And if you start asking questions like, how would trade really work? How would they make enough food for them to eat? Etc., the illusion does begin to fall apart. Not so with KCD. The small villages all have the infrastructure and the farmland to sustain itself, and while some concessions are made in Kudenberg, since not every building is explorable, there's enough stuff in it where it never made me question the illusion of its size and the importance to the region as a whole. At the same time, castles, forts, and other fortified structures are smaller than what a fantasy game would produce. The interiors are cramped, windows are tiny, and it's funny because both the beginning and the end of the game involves the siege of Shushadol, and in comparison to, say, any fort in The Witcher, it's a little more than a big house with a wall and a moat around it. and the army that surrounds it is made up of what, a few hundred men at most? Far from the looks of the epic battles games and shows often display, but no less intense and gratifying to play. Because these structures are so mundane, it makes them look different, which makes it interesting to me. I also love the interaction between NPCs and watching their routines. It reminds me of Oblivion dialogue in the best possible way.
How's your sister?
Fine. Why'd you ask?
I heard she was sick. I just wanted to know if she's feeling better.
It was nothing, just a slight cold. Aye, a man would be calling for the priest, but women are made of stronger stuff.
There's a sort of inherent jankiness to it, but I think it's as polished as a system as we could possibly have with the current tech. Women weave baskets and cook, and men do blacksmithing or tan leather, and fights outside of bars happen often, and it all just creates a vibe, you know? Ooh, and I really want to talk about the forest. I don't think I have much to say other than I don't think I've ever seen video game forests look this good in all of my life. They're so dense and vibrant. Honestly, I don't know how they did it or why other game companies have not. When you transition from an open field to the forest, it truly envelops you, and it's no wonder how many lost hikers are often so close to a trail or settlement because it is so easy to get lost and turn around in. In parts of the Trotsky map, the castle is often visible, but not always. And darkness in this game is truly, truly dark, without the aid of drinking a night vision potion, at least. No wonder why so many folktales involve the forest, why the forest at night has such a stigma around it, where witches do blood rituals in the dark as wolves howl at the moon. It's great. Another thing I appreciate is the map itself. When you zoom in on settlements, you get these wonderfully whimsy, flat-looking drawings of knights and maidens and critters that tell a story in their own right. I'm not sure exactly what the story is, but it certainly adds to the vibe, giving an artistic, subjective flair to navigating the world around you. It's really cool. I just like looking at these maps. It's all these small details that really drew me into the game, more so than the big flashy set pieces or whatever other games have. There is a quiet confidence in the design and the attention span of the player. Sure, the game is beautiful, and there are lots of hidden things to find, plenty of Easter eggs and the odd buried loot, but the game doesn't shove down dozens of pointless points of interest and map markers at you. So many games jangle shiny keys in front of the player saying, "Hey, hey, don't get bored, look at me, look at me." Like we're fucking toddlers. And God, maybe most gamers mentally are babies given the success of Ubisoft's design philosophy and their endless checklist things to do, but it's just so refreshing to play a game that is like, hey, you aren't a total dumbass. You do have the capacity to make some deductive reasoning, and you don't need to be distracted by jangling keys every 5 seconds, right? You could just exist, right? Now, one critique I do have of the world is that there are sadly no accessible churches. In the previous game, there were a few that you could explore entirely, but here, aside from like the chapel and the Trotsky Castle, and maybe somewhere else, you just can't go inside any of them. Hopefully that will be added in a future DLC. It really is the one thing the sequel does worse than the first game, which is a pretty small nitpick in the grand scheme of things, but still a bummer nonetheless. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the world design of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, one of the most immersive masterpieces I've ever played. After nearly 100 hours, I finally beat the game, so expect a review of it coming sometime soon. I'm the Rat Shepherd. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more KCD2 content. Thanks so much.